A chance encounter in the park. In the heart of a bustling city, where the cacophony of life often drowns out the whispers of the forgotten, there existed a small park, a hidden oasis amid the concrete jungle. It was a place where people hurried past, lost in their own worlds, rarely pausing to notice the stories that unfolded around them. On one particularly chilly morning, as the sun struggled to break through the clouds, a woman named Clara found herself wandering through this park. Clara was not just any woman. She was homeless, navigating life with resilience that belied her circumstances. Her clothes were worn and tattered, but her spirit remained unbroken. Each day was a new challenge, yet Clara approached it with a sense of hope and determination. She often spent her mornings in the park, finding solace in nature's beauty, watching the birds flit about and listening to the rustle of leaves in the breeze. On this fateful day, as Clara sat on a weathered bench, she noticed something glinting in the grass nearby. Curiosity piqued, she stood up and approached the shimmering object. As she bent down to pick it up, her heart raced with anticipation. It was a gold ring, delicate and ornate, adorned with intricate designs that caught the light beautifully. Clara's eyes widened in disbelief. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. She turned the ring over in her hands, marveling at its craftsmanship. For a moment she imagined who might have lost it, and what stories it held. Was it a symbol of love, a family heirloom, or perhaps a token of a promise made long ago? The possibilities danced in her mind as she slipped it onto her finger. It fit perfectly. As Clara walked back to her bench, she felt an unfamiliar warmth spread through her, a sense of belonging that had eluded her for so long. But alongside this newfound joy came a pang of guilt. She knew that finding such a precious item likely meant someone was missing it deeply. The thought weighed heavily on her heart. With each passing moment, Clara's thoughts drifted to the ring's owner. Who were they? What had led them to lose such an important piece of their life? She envisioned a young couple, perhaps engaged or newly married, searching desperately for this symbol of their love. Or maybe an elderly woman who had worn it for decades, each scratch and dent telling tales of laughter and tears. Determined to uncover the truth behind this ring, Clara resolved to find its rightful owner. As she sat back on the bench, she made a silent promise to herself. She would not let this treasure remain hidden from its true home. With a renewed sense of purpose igniting within her, Clara began to formulate a plan, one that would lead her on an unexpected journey, filled with heartache and hope. Little did she know that this simple act of kindness would change not only her life, but also intertwine her fate with someone who had lost more than just a ring. The adventure ahead would challenge her perceptions of worth and belonging in ways she could never have imagined. Clara sat on the park bench, the golden ring glinting in the soft morning light. She turned it over in her hands, feeling its weight and the coolness of the metal against her skin. For a moment, she lost herself in thought, imagining the life it once adorned. The park around her bustled with activity, children laughing, joggers passing by, and couples enjoying their morning strolls. But Clara felt as if she were in a world of her own, cocooned by the ring's beauty and the possibilities it represented. As she slipped the ring back onto her finger, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that this discovery was more than mere luck. It felt like a sign, a flicker of hope in her otherwise challenging life. She had always believed that good things were meant to happen to those who remained hopeful, even in the darkest of times. Perhaps this ring was a reminder that beauty still existed in the world, even for someone like her. Clara's mind raced with questions about its owner. She imagined a woman who had worn it proudly, perhaps during significant moments in her life, graduations, weddings, or family gatherings. The thought filled Clara with a bittersweet longing. She had never experienced such milestones. Her life had been a series of struggles and survival. Yet here she was, holding something that symbolized love and connection. Determined to find out more about the ring's origin, Clara decided to take action. She stood up from the bench and walked toward the park entrance, where a small community bulletin board stood. It was often filled with flyers for lost pets, local events, and community services. If someone had lost this ring, perhaps they had posted a notice here. As she approached the board, Clara's heart raced with anticipation. She scanned through the various papers pinned haphazardly, ads for yoga classes, announcements about food drives, and even a flyer for a local talent show. But there was nothing about a lost ring. Disappointed but undeterred, she took a deep breath and resolved to ask around. Clara wandered through the park, approaching people who looked approachable, parents with children, elderly couples feeding birds, and even a group of teenagers lounging on the grass. Each time she mentioned finding a gold ring, she was met with curious glances and polite smiles, but no leads on its owner. After an hour of searching without success, Clara found herself back at her bench. She sat down heavily, feeling the weight of disappointment settle on her shoulders. The ring felt heavier now, not just because of its physical presence, but because of the emotional burden it carried. She wanted to do right by its owner, but felt powerless to make that happen. Just then, an elderly woman approached Clara's bench. Her silver hair glimmered like moonlight against her dark coat, and her eyes sparkled with kindness as she sat down beside Clara. "Hello there," she said softly. "You look like you've been on quite an adventure." Clara smiled faintly, but didn't respond immediately. The woman seemed to sense Clara's hesitation and continued speaking. "I often come here to reflect," she said, gazing out at the park's serene landscape. "It's my little escape from reality." Clara nodded, appreciating the woman's warmth. "I found this," she finally said, holding out her hand to reveal the gold ring resting on her palm. The woman's eyes widened as she leaned closer to examine it. "Oh my, that is beautiful. Where did you find it?" "Just over there." Clara gestured toward a patch of grass nearby. "I'm trying to find its owner." The elderly woman studied Clara for a moment before speaking again. "You have such a kind heart for wanting to return it," she said gently. "Do you know who it belongs to?" Clara shook her head sadly. "I've asked around but haven't found anyone who knows." The woman smiled knowingly. "Sometimes these things take time," she said reassuringly, "but I believe that if you keep looking, you'll find them." Inspired by this stranger's words, Clara felt a renewed sense of determination wash over her. "Thank you," she replied sincerely. "I just want to do what's right." The woman nodded appreciatively before introducing herself as Margaret. They began chatting about their lives. Margaret shared stories from her youth while Clara spoke about her experiences living in the city and navigating homelessness. As they talked, Clara felt an unexpected bond forming between them, a connection that transcended their different circumstances. Margaret listened intently as Clara recounted how she had ended up on the streets after losing her job due to unforeseen circumstances. "I used to have everything," Clara admitted quietly. "A home, friends. But one thing led to another." Margaret reached out and placed a comforting hand on Clara's arm. "Life can be unpredictable," she said softly. "But your spirit shines through even in tough times." Feeling encouraged by Margaret's compassion, Clara shared more about her desire to find the ring's owner and what it represented for her, a chance at redemption and connection in a world that often overlooked people like her. Margaret's eyes sparkled with understanding as she listened attentively. "You know," she said thoughtfully after a pause, "sometimes we find things not just for ourselves, but for others too." Clara pondered this idea as they continued their conversation until Margaret stood up to leave. "Keep searching for that owner," Margaret encouraged as she prepared to depart. "And remember that kindness has a way of coming back around." As Margaret walked away, Clara felt invigorated by their encounter. The warmth of their conversation lingered within her like sunlight breaking through clouds after a storm. with renewed resolve igniting within her heart. Clara made plans for what would come next, visiting local shops nearby to see if anyone recognized the ring or might know someone who had lost it. Little did she know that this journey would lead her not only closer to uncovering the truth behind the ring, but also into an unexpected bond with its owner, a connection that would change both their lives forever. Backstory of the owner. As Clara set out on her quest to find the owner of the gold ring, she felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. The ring had become a symbol of hope for her, a reminder that kindness still existed in a world that often felt indifferent. With each step she took, Clara imagined the stories behind the ring, the love it represented, and the life it had once adorned. Meanwhile, across town, in a small but cozy apartment filled with plants and photographs, a woman named Sarah was experiencing a different kind of heartache. Sarah was in her late 30s, with warm brown eyes and long, wavy hair that framed her face. She had always been known for her vibrant spirit and infectious laughter, but today her heart felt heavy. Just a week ago, Sarah had lost her beloved grandmother, who had raised her after her parents passed away when she was young. Her grandmother had been her anchor, guiding her through life's challenges with wisdom and love. In the days following her grandmother's death, Sarah found herself sifting through memories, old photo albums, treasured letters, and cherished keepsakes. Among these items was the gold ring that now rested on Clara's finger. It had belonged to Sarah's grandmother, a beautiful piece adorned with intricate floral patterns and a small diamond nestled in the center. It was more than just jewelry. It was a family heirloom passed down through generations. Sarah remembered how her grandmother would tell stories about each time she wore it, how it sparkled at her wedding, how it was a symbol of love during difficult times, and how it had witnessed countless family gatherings filled with laughter and joy. The ring was meant to be passed on to Sarah someday, a token of their unbreakable bond. But in the whirlwind of grief and funeral arrangements, Sarah had lost track of it. It wasn't until she returned home from her grandmother's funeral that she realized it was missing. Panic set in as she searched every corner of her apartment, underneath cushions, in drawers, even in places she rarely ventured. But the ring was nowhere to be found. As days turned into weeks, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of loss, not just for her grandmother, but also for the connection that the ring represented. It felt as if a piece of her heritage had slipped away along with it. The thought that someone else might be wearing it gnawed at her heart. She could only hope that whoever found it would understand its significance. Back in the park, Clara continued her search for answers. After visiting several local shops and speaking with people about the ring, she decided to take a break at a nearby cafe. As she sipped on a warm cup of tea, Clara reflected on what Margaret had said about kindness coming back around. She felt determined to continue searching, but also realized that perhaps this journey was about more than just returning a lost item. It was about forging connections and understanding the stories behind each person's life. As Clara sat there lost in thought, she noticed a flyer on the cafe bulletin board advertising a community event, a gathering for people to share their stories and experiences. The event promised to be an evening filled with music, food, and storytelling, a chance for individuals from all walks of life to come together and connect. Inspired by this idea, Clara took down the flyer and decided to attend. Perhaps there would be someone there who recognized the ring or knew someone who had lost something precious. More importantly, Clara felt that sharing her own story might help others understand the importance of compassion in their lives. That evening at the community event was magical. The room buzzed with laughter and chatter as people mingled over platters of food and cups of steaming coffee. Clara felt both nervous and excited as she entered the venue. It was filled with warmth and energy that made her feel welcome despite her reservations. As she moved through the crowd, Clara struck up conversations with various attendees. Some shared tales of their struggles, while others spoke about moments of joy that defined their lives. Each story resonated with her in different ways. They were all reminders that everyone carried their own burdens while seeking connection. When it came time for storytelling, Clara took a deep breath as she stood before the crowd. She shared her journey, the challenges she faced living on the streets, but also how finding the gold ring had sparked hope within her heart. As she spoke about wanting to return it to its rightful owner, tears welled up in some audience members' eyes. They could feel the sincerity behind her words. Afterward, several people approached Clara to express their admiration for her courage and kindness. Some even offered assistance, helping spread word about the lost ring through social media or local community groups. Among those who approached Clara was an older gentleman named Mr. Thompson, a retired school teacher known for his wisdom and gentle demeanor. He listened intently as Clara recounted her story before offering his own insight. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "the universe has a way of bringing people together when they need each other most." Clara nodded appreciatively. His words resonated deeply within her. "Perhaps this ring is not just about returning something lost," he continued. "It might lead you to discover something even more valuable, a connection that could change your life." Inspired by Mr. Thompson's perspective, Clara left the event feeling invigorated by newfound hope and purpose. She resolved to keep searching for the ring's owner, but also embrace the idea that this journey could lead to unexpected friendships along the way. Meanwhile, back at home after another long day without finding any leads on the ring's whereabouts, Sarah sat on her couch, surrounded by memories of her grandmother, photos displayed proudly on shelves alongside mementos from family gatherings long past. Feeling overwhelmed by grief yet again as night fell around her, like an unwelcome blanket enveloping everything in darkness, she picked up her phone, scrolling mindlessly through social media until something caught her eye. A post from one of her friends sharing information about an upcoming community event focused on storytelling. Intrigued, yet hesitant at first, Sarah considered attending, but quickly dismissed it, thinking she wasn't ready yet. But then again, maybe this could be an opportunity, an avenue where others might share similar experiences, perhaps even someone who knew something about lost items. With newfound determination stirring within herself, Sarah decided then and there she would go. The next evening arrived quickly enough. Sarah found herself standing outside the venue feeling nervous, yet excited as well. Stepping inside brought forth an immediate sense of warmth and belonging amidst all those gathered around, sharing stories filled with laughter and tears alike. As people began sharing their tales one after another, Sarah listened intently, feeling drawn into each narrative unfolding before them. And then came Clara's turn. As Clara stood up nervously before everyone sharing not only how she found this beautiful gold ring, but also what it meant for both herself and its potential owner, Sarah felt an inexplicable tug at her heartstrings. Could this be fate? Was this woman truly holding on to something so precious? Clara's words echoed within Sarah's mind like whispers, guiding them closer together until finally, the moment arrived when both women locked eyes across the room. In that instant, the world around them faded away, leaving only two souls connected by destiny itself. Clara finished speaking amidst applause from those present, while Sarah felt tears streaming down her cheeks, realizing what needed to happen next. Afterward, Sarah approached Clara hesitantly yet determinedly, asking if they could talk privately away from prying ears. What unfolded next would forever change both their lives, intertwining them through loss and love alike. The woman's decision. As Sarah approached Clara, her heart raced with a mixture of hope and anxiety. The moment their eyes met, an unspoken understanding passed between them. Clara had just shared her story about finding the gold ring, and Sarah felt an overwhelming urge to reveal her own connection to it. She took a deep breath, gathering her courage as she stepped closer to the woman who had unknowingly held a piece of her heart. "Excuse me," Sarah began, her voice trembling slightly. "I couldn't help but feel moved by your story. That ring, it sounds so familiar." Clara's eyes widened in surprise, and she felt a flicker of recognition. "You think it might belong to you?" she asked, her heart pounding in anticipation. Sarah nodded slowly, her emotions spilling over. "It belonged to my grandmother. She passed away recently, and I've been searching for it everywhere. I didn't realize it was gone until after the funeral." Clara's breath caught in her throat as she processed Sarah's words. This was the moment she had been hoping for, the chance to return the ring to its rightful owner. "Oh my God," Clara said softly, holding out the ring for Sarah to see. "Is this it?" As Sarah reached out and took the ring into her hands, tears filled her eyes. It was exactly as she remembered. Its intricate floral patterns and the small diamond at its center sparkled under the venue's lights. "Yes! This is it!" she exclaimed, her voice breaking with emotion. The two women stood there for a moment, enveloped in a profound silence that spoke volumes. Clara watched as Sarah examined the ring closely, tracing its delicate design with trembling fingers. She could see the memories flooding back into Sarah's mind, the love and warmth that the ring symbolized. "I can't believe you found it," Sarah whispered, wiping away tears that spilled down her cheeks. "This ring means everything to me. It was my grandmother's most cherished possession." Clara felt a wave of warmth wash over her as she witnessed Sarah's emotional reaction. In that instant, all her efforts and struggles felt worthwhile. She had not only found the owner, but had also restored a piece of someone's heart. "I'm so glad I could return it to you," Clara said sincerely. "I know how much it must mean to you." Sarah looked up at Clara with gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you for being so kind," she replied, her voice steadying. "You don't know how much this means to me." They moved away from the crowd, finding a quieter corner of the venue where they could talk without distractions. As they settled into a nearby seating area, Clara felt a sense of relief wash over her. After all the searching and uncertainty, she had finally fulfilled her promise to return the ring. "I've been thinking about how this journey has changed me," Clara began, reflecting on everything that had led them to this moment. "Finding this ring made me realize how important connections are, how we all have stories that intertwine in unexpected ways." Sarah nodded in agreement, wiping away the last remnants of tears from her cheeks. "Absolutely," she said softly. "It's incredible how something so small can hold so much meaning." Clara smiled warmly at Sarah, feeling an instant bond forming between them, a connection that transcended their different circumstances. They began sharing more about their lives. Sarah spoke about growing up with her grandmother and how they had always been inseparable. Clara recounted her struggles with homelessness and how she had learned to find beauty even in difficult times. As they talked, Clara discovered that Sarah was not only compassionate, but also incredibly resilient. Despite facing loss and grief, Sarah maintained a positive outlook on life, a quality that resonated deeply with Clara. "I often think about how our experiences shape us," Sarah mused thoughtfully. "My grandmother always taught me to find joy in little things, even during tough times." Clara smiled at this sentiment. It echoed her own philosophy of life. They exchanged stories about their favorite memories. Sarah reminisced about baking cookies with her grandmother, while Clara shared tales of moments spent watching sunsets in the park. As their conversation flowed effortlessly, Clara felt a sense of belonging that she hadn't experienced in a long time. For the first time in ages, she didn't feel judged or marginalized. Instead, she felt seen and valued for who she was. After some time spent chatting and laughing together, Sarah took a deep breath before speaking again. "I want you to know that I'd like to help you," she said earnestly. "You've shown such kindness by returning my grandmother's ring. I want to do something meaningful in return." Clara looked at Sarah with surprise. This wasn't what she expected at all. "You don't have to do anything," Clara replied modestly. No, Sarah insisted gently but firmly. I mean it. I can't just take this back without giving something back to you. The sincerity in Sarah's voice touched Clara deeply. It reminded her of Margaret's words about kindness coming full circle. After contemplating for a moment, Clara decided to share what would truly help her. If you really want to help, Clara said cautiously, I could use some assistance finding stable housing or resources for people like me who are struggling. Sarah nodded thoughtfully as they discussed various options, local shelters, community programs focused on helping those experiencing homelessness, and before long, they were brainstorming ideas together. Let's keep in touch, Sarah suggested enthusiastically as they exchanged contact information before parting ways at the end of the event. As Clara walked home that evening feeling lighter than air, her heart brimming with hope, it dawned on her just how transformative this experience had been. Not only did she return something precious, but also forged an unexpected friendship along the way. Days turned into weeks as both women continued their newfound connection through regular phone calls and messages, sharing updates about their lives, while supporting one another through challenges faced along their respective journeys. With each passing day, Sarah worked tirelessly researching resources available within their community, while coordinating efforts aimed at helping those experiencing homelessness like Clara regain stability and dignity once more. Meanwhile, Clara found herself inspired by Sarah's unwavering determination and compassion, fueling newfound motivation within herself, too. Together, they became advocates not only for each other, but also for others who needed support during difficult times, reminding everyone around them that even amidst adversity, hope still thrived when nurtured by kindness and understanding. And so, their stories intertwined further, leading them toward greater purpose beyond mere coincidence. For both women knew deep down, this journey would forever change them, shaping new paths ahead, filled with love, resilience, and connection amidst life's unpredictable nature. A journey of healing and hope. As the weeks turned into months, Clara and Sarah's friendship blossomed into something beautiful and profound. They became each other's pillars of support, navigating the complexities of life together. Clara found herself inspired by Sarah's unwavering determination to help others, while Sarah drew strength from Clara's resilience in the face of adversity. Clara's journey toward stability began to take shape. With Sarah's guidance, she connected with local resources that provided housing assistance, job training programs, and counseling services for those experiencing homelessness. Each step forward felt monumental. Clara was no longer just surviving, but actively working toward a brighter future. One day, as they sat together in a cozy cafe, sipping coffee and discussing their plans for the future, Clara felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. I can't believe how much has changed since I found that ring, she said, looking into Sarah's eyes. It feels like it was meant to lead me to you. Sarah smiled warmly, her eyes glistening with understanding. It's incredible how life works sometimes. That ring was more than just a piece of jewelry. It became a bridge between our lives. Clara nodded in agreement, reflecting on the journey they had taken together. It wasn't just about returning an item. It was about forging a connection that transcended their individual struggles. They had both learned valuable lessons about compassion, resilience, and the importance of community. As Clara continued to rebuild her life, she found work at a local nonprofit organization that focused on helping individuals experiencing homelessness. It felt like a calling. She was now in a position to give back and support others who were facing similar challenges. Each day brought new opportunities to share her story and inspire hope in those who felt lost. Meanwhile, Sarah remained dedicated to her advocacy work as well. She organized community events aimed at raising awareness about homelessness and the resources available to those in need. Together with Clara, they created initiatives that encouraged people to come together, share their stories, and foster understanding within the community. One evening, during one of their events, Clara stood before a crowd of people gathered in the park where she had first found the ring. As she shared her journey from struggling on the streets to finding hope through friendship, she felt empowered by the support surrounding her. Life can be incredibly challenging, Clara spoke passionately, but we have the power to make a difference in each other's lives. Kindness is contagious. When we extend our hands to lift others up, we create ripples of change. The audience listened intently as Clara recounted her experience with Sarah, their unexpected connection through the ring, and how it had transformed both their lives for the better. The stories resonated deeply with many present. Some even shared their own experiences of loss and recovery. Afterward, as people mingled and shared their thoughts about what they had heard, Clara felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. She had not only reclaimed her life, but also become a beacon of hope for others. As time went on, Clara and Sarah continued to grow closer. They celebrated milestones together. Clara moved into her own apartment after months of hard work and perseverance, while Sarah achieved personal goals as well. Both women cheering each other on every step of the way. One day, while sitting on Clara's new balcony overlooking the city skyline, Sarah turned to her friend with a serious expression. "You know," she began thoughtfully, "I've been thinking about how far we've come since that day in the park." Clara smiled at her friend's words. It was true. Their lives had changed dramatically since then. "I never imagined finding that ring would lead me here," she replied softly. "Neither did I," Sarah admitted with a chuckle. "But it feels like everything fell into place for a reason." Clara nodded in agreement. There was something magical about their connection, a bond forged through shared experiences that transcended mere coincidence. As they sat together watching the sunset paint vibrant colors across the sky, a sense of peace enveloped them both, their hearts filled with gratitude for what they had accomplished individually and together. In that moment, a realization dawned upon them. Life would always present challenges, but with love and support from one another, they could face anything head-on. And so their journey continued, a testament not only to resilience but also an enduring reminder that kindness has extraordinary power capable of transforming lives forever. As time passed, Clara often reflected back on those early days spent searching for answers amidst uncertainty, wondering where this path would ultimately lead them next. But one thing remained clear. They were no longer alone. They had each other, a friendship rooted deep within shared struggles and triumphs alike. With every passing day, their bond grew stronger, shaping new chapters filled with laughter, joy, and hope amidst life's unpredictable nature. They could conquer anything life threw their way. In the end, it wasn't just about a lost ring or returning something precious. It was about discovering connection and purpose amidst adversity, a journey filled with love, healing, and endless